Christ about my friends. I hope this finds you well. Apologies for not doing a video last week. As you can hear, I'm still a little snuffly. I'll apologise if I cough and splutter. It's a mixture of a few different things. But do stay tuned to the end, because I'd like to ask a question at the end and I'd love to get your input on it. But today's gospel, Jesus returns to his hometown of Nazareth. It's where he grew up, where he began his ministry. Now, we might think that these people that knew him since he was a little tiny dut, then we might think they'd be happy to see him. Hometown boy done good, right? Now, I've lived in Wales since 2008. It's actually quite funny, despite being born in England, I discerned in Wales. So I do consider myself a Welsh priest, which is a bit weird, I know, but I'm organically from this diocese. I've lived in Wales since 2008. And one thing I've noticed about Wales is that we do celebrities right. We do just that. If someone makes it big, if the boy or the girl does good, then the town they're from generally embraces them. You need to only look at Caerphilly with Tommy Cooper. They absolutely embrace him with open arms, and rightly so. The man was a comedy genius. Now, we'd be safe in thinking that Jesus might get the same treatment, right? Nope. You see, despite being familiar with Jesus, the people of Nazareth, they seem to have, either willfully or not, forgotten who he was, what he did, and what he can do. They're skeptical. They're even dismissive. They say, this is a quote from the NIV, "Where did this man get these things? What kind of wisdom has been given to him?" Now, of course, if we reword that, if we paraphrase that from more modern parlance, well, we didn't know he was this smart. Who taught him all this then? And there's also something else they say in the gospel. If you've read it, of course, it'll be in the description. It always is. But there'll be something else in the gospel you'll read. And what they say is, isn't that Mary's son? Isn't that Mary's son? Now, they don't mention Joseph. They don't say, isn't it Mary's son? Isn't it Joseph's son? No, it's Mary's son. So read that between the lines. What they're saying there is, hang on a minute, ain't that the kid of that teenager that was pregnant before she was married? Stigma follows us. And then, of course, they say, well, hang on a minute. If he's that kid, what does he think he's doing talking to us about all this? You see, they can't divorce the things that they knew from his early life from what he's trying to teach them now. It'd be the same if I went back to my hometown to preach. If I went there to preach, teach, and try to lead, people would remember who I was. They'd remember that little fat school kid with the bangs. Remember those in the late 90s? Or early 90s, I suppose they were. The mushroom haircut. God, it was terrible. Not quite as bad as when I was in high school. I don't know if anybody remembers Old W.E. The Rock was a big thing back then. And I actually had a pair of expertly sculpted rock-style sideburns. I just thank the Lord that there are no photos from that era. I really do. But it's the same sort of trap that we can fall into. You see, friends, most of us have grown up with God. And we've heard stories about God from the Bible. Maybe we've even thought they were really cool. I remember being a kid, hearing about God and what he did through Moses, the parting of the Red Sea, giving Pharaoh a slap. I thought that was so cool. And then, of course, we get a little bit older and we start to ask the questions. And then we wonder how the God we learned about from the Bible and the God we know at that moment and the God that we are seeking a relationship with in the future could possibly be the same God. We find ourselves wondering this, and so many of us at that moment walk away. I was no different. I got to about 12, 13 and thought, you know what, I know it all, sod this, and off I went. And I guarantee many of you watching this now will be going, yeah, maybe not at 13, but at one point all of us do it. We all go, don't need that no more. And off we go. And most of us, instead of taking that leap of faith in order to seek knowledge, will choose to stay with the familiar of what we think we know. And it's because we've staked a lot of our faith. Faith is a very personal thing. It's the currency of the soul. It's such a very personal thing. Our faith it's almost like our personality. It's almost like our fingerprint. There will be elements, of course. We've all got swirls and whirls and whatever. But each of us, our faith is like a fingerprint. And there are elements of our faith that are unique to us. And then all of a sudden, we've staked a lot of that on what we know of God, what we know deep in here of God. We stake a lot of that faith on that. And then when we have to make that leap of faith to try and marry these things up together in our hearts and in our heads, sometimes we're just not willing to gamble it. And what we fail to remember is a significant theological truth, my friends. That it's not in the specific actions that God is unchanging. It's actually in God's personality. It's in God's character and purpose. It's in the will that God is unchangingly faithful. Now, I know that's a bit of a mouthful, and I'll do what I can to try and unpick that a little bit. So what we're saying there is that God's actions will change. Of course they will. Again, I refer you to Moses and Pharaoh getting a slap. Now, a lot of people say to me, how can they be the same God, the God of the Old Testament, the God of the New Testament? And often I say, the God of the Old Testament knew that we humans needed more direct action. We just didn't get it. And I mean, look at it, today's gospel. The humans of the New Testament just didn't get it. But Jesus is here at that point. He's here and he's teaching on the ground. He's God's agent on the ground. But that personality, that acting in love has never changed. Look at when God saves Noah, when he says to Noah, look, build the ark. He does that in love. Look at when, when a small baby is placed in a basket and sent down the Nile. That basket is guided in love. Jesus came to earth in love. The parables he teaches are taught in love. That unchanging character and purpose and will of God is always there. It is always acted on in love. But coming back to the gospel, the response of Jesus' hometown is striking because it shows just how easily, and it's such an easy trap to fall into, it shows just how easily that we can forget or we can overlook the presence and power of God in our lives. Some people, I've said it before, the extent of some people's prayer life is, please stay green, please stay green, please stay green. That's it. The other people, their prayer life, they come to God with a laundry list. They say, please, Lord, I need and 6 eggs while you're at it. So many of us, and I'm guilty of it myself, so many of us don't think sometimes to come to God and just say thanks for stuff. Just say, look, thank you, I woke up today. Because that's the thing, friends. Watching this, you made it today. Not everybody was that lucky. And so what happens is we become so familiar with God in our lives. We become so familiar with Jesus that we forget to approach him with humility and faith. All of a sudden, he becomes, it's just Jesus. He's all right. He's always there. Yeah, he's just sat in the corner. He's cool. You're all right, boss? No problem. We become almost blasé about it. And I've always said Jesus seeks a friendship and a relationship and a love with us. And so there would be that idea of being on the same level to a degree. Like, I don't think Jesus would be above a fist bump, for example. You know, if we get up there when our time is done and we walk up to Jesus and go, yo, what's happening? I honestly do believe he'd give us a fist bump back. But we can also become like the people of Nazareth. We can become the people that know Jesus, but we don't recognize him. And Jesus' response to their skepticism is wonderful. He doesn't get angry. He doesn't get defensive. He doesn't say, oh, shove it then and walk off. He says prophets are not without honor, except in their own country. Now, again, this phrase here, boil it down. Essentially, he's saying prophets will be listened to. They'll be respected everywhere, except for their hometowns. The phrase is a reminder that even the most powerful message can sometimes be met with resistance and rejection, even from those we think are going to be on our sides, even those whom we think know us best, even from those whom we think are going to put out the flags and give us a round of applause as we enter like conquering heroes. And yet, even in all of this, Jesus does not give up on the people of Nazareth. He doesn't say, oh, you know what, that's it, I'm done. You don't deserve my message. He doesn't do that. Instead, what he does is he continues to share the message. He proclaims the good news of the kingdom. And of course, the people of Nazareth, they don't receive him well. But Jesus does not let their rejection deter him. It's a lesson from Jesus right there, straight away, straight to us here in this little ramshackle community in 2024. He doesn't get discouraged. He does not give up. Because friends, right now, each of us, whether we're watching this, whether we're listening to it when I deliver it in church on Sunday, each of us will be fighting or facing a battle of faith. Each of us will be wondering if what we're doing matters one way or another. Let me assure you of this, my friends. Jesus didn't give up. Now here, he had people who had known him his whole life, but they snorted, they dismissed him. And he kept going. Those who were ready to listen, listened and were saved. Those who didn't, he didn't attack them. He didn't tell them to get gone. He still stayed, and he still did what he was doing for that little bit of the kingdom that would listen to him. Friends, whatever fight you're facing, keep going. But this gospel also highlights the importance of community. Jesus sends out the 12 apostles to preach, teach, and heal. And they're empowered by his authority. He gives them authority. And then what he does is he sends them out in pairs, supporting and encouraging each other as they share the good news. This emphasis on community is a reminder that faith is never a solo activity. It's something we do together. Even this here, these videos, we do this together, friends. I would not do this if you were not here. We do it together. But an important point occurred to me while I was writing this. Jesus had the disciples with him. They would have been there and they would have watched his own people turn on him and reject him. They would have watched him endure that with grace, with patience, and with love. He didn't get hostile, and the disciples saw this. He taught those who would listen. He also taught the disciples a very valuable lesson in handling rejection. However painful it may be, it's a lesson, friends, that you and me, we also need to take on. Because we're not always going to be welcomed with open arms. It's a sad truth. And so as we reflect upon this passage, remember that faith is not about knowing all the answers or being in control. Faith is about trusting in God's goodness and God's power, even when we don't understand it, even when we don't understand the situation we're facing, even when we feel overwhelmed by it. How often does this happen? I won't go into names, but recently ordinations occurred in Wales. And I remember the first anniversary of my ordination. I remember going back to that and walking into that cathedral the first time, and that was overwhelming. I walked in there fully dependent on God because I didn't have a clue what I was doing. Jesus demonstrates perfectly how to handle setbacks. If I may use a boxing parlance, I've talked about it before. I used to box, it's why I'm so pretty. But to use a boxing parlance, Jesus, he bites down on the gum shield and he gets through this round. He displays a strength, a resilience, an ability to endure by clinging to the core message of our Father. And so, friends, in keeping the objective from God in sight, Jesus is able even to use this painful experience. Jesus was human as well as God. He would have felt it. Jesus was authentically man, authentically God. Never forget that. He would have felt the pain of that rejection. He would have seen people that he played with as a kid Maybe they kicked a ball around or something in the street. He would have seen these men and women that he'd known since he was a child, and he would have seen the hate and the fear and the rejection in their eyes. He would have felt it. And he would have used it to strengthen his resolve. Jesus stayed closer to God, and it's a lesson to us, friends. Out there we face rejection. Out there, as I've said it before, it's dark, it's brutal, it's cold, and it does not care about us sometimes. Stay close to God. Stay close to his love. Stay close to the light that he sheds on those who love him. Remember, faith, it's about community. Sometimes we feel alone in what we do, and sometimes physically we may indeed be alone. As a priest, I alone work a lot. But friends, God is always with us. Even when our brothers and sisters aren't, God is there. We're never alone in our struggles or in our triumphs. And this is the beautiful thing. When we struggle, God comes behind us and goes, come on, up, let's do it. And when we triumph, God stands behind us going, yes, Pat, well done. He's always there. So in the face of skepticism, in the face of rejection, friends, respond like Jesus. Respond with love, with compassion, with perseverance. Remember that God's power is not limited by human doubts or human fears. And let's find strength in our community of faith, the little community that we've built here that I am so proud of and that I love each and every one of you of. Let's support and encourage each other as we share the good news of God's love. And so friends, before I close this video, I've had a couple of ideas and I'd just love to get your thoughts on it. I'm aware this is 17 minutes long. It's actually a lot longer than I would normally do, so I won't keep you. But the question I was going to ask is, I've had a thought about a video I would think about doing that involves survival kits. Involves almost like a Desert Island Discs type thing, where I would talk about music and songs that help me endure in ministry. If that's something you'd be interested in, please do let me know. And also, secondly, another thought. I was thinking maybe of doing some sort of Q&A session. Now, I'm not entirely sure how this will work. It's all still in the planning phase. But again, let me know. What do you think of that? I mean, I could set up an email address and have people email questions to me and answer them in a video. Actually, you know what? No, I say it. That might be how I go. But guys, let me know what you think. And as always, I continue to pray for each and every one of you. And I would ask for prayers for me because I'm a poor broken sinner, just like everybody else. So friends, I hope you've enjoyed today's video. And whatever you're doing, do it in love. God bless you, my friends, and take care.